So this video is on my Atari 2600 game collection. I've got this whole shelf from top to bottom are 2600 games. Everything except for the bottom row are North American NTSC games, and then that bottom row is my collection of PAL games. But from the North American NTSC perspective, I've been working on collecting all the original releases and main label variants. I know there are a billion different label variants one can get, but I've kind of narrowed down to about 50 I don't have from the North American releases, and sort of getting into sort of the rarest ones for the most part I don't have. But I've been chipping away on that collection, and I'll pull out a bunch of these, but just kind of at a high level. I have them arranged alphabetically and by company. So top row here is all Atari, and then at the pick label Atari games, and I do have a number of label variants on the side. For example, Video Olympics. I just kept, one of each color of the green, orange, and yellow label. I don't think there's much of a difference in rarity, or certainly it's the same game. It's just some of those games I did keep label variants. I'll pull out a bunch of those in a bit just to kind of show some of those differences. But next row down, I've got all of the text label games from Atari. Again, these are the same games in many cases. Some of them are different. I guess some of them never got released with pick labels, but otherwise, surround text label is the same game as the surround pick label, which came a bit later. These are sort of the unique Atari label variants. The red label variants that came a bit later, and I'll kind of talk all through sort of that timeline in a bit. But I've got my Epix games here. These are all Sears branded pick label games, so Sears Tele-Games versions. For example, Pac-Man here, same Pac-Man everyone's used to, but it's a Sears Tele-Game Pac-Man instead of just regular Pac-Man. Down here, then these are again the older Sears text label games, so similar to these guys. These are just the Sears branded ones, and if you've ever seen these, whatever number games, this is 34 Tele-Games, but it's Missile Command. Memory Match is 8. Maze Mania, which is Maze Craze, is 16 games. Got some Mythicon games here. These are the Milton Bradley Survival Run and Spitfire Attacks. Here's actually probably my rarest game I've got, the Music Machine. This one's kind of interesting because it was apparently released and sold only through like Christian bookstores. So it's actually really rare, because I guess the Venn diagram of parents who shopped at Christian bookstores in 1983 and parents who had Atari video game systems for their kids, very little overlap, so probably not too many of those sold, and fewer of them are still floating around today. Then I've got Activision games here, and you'll actually see a bunch of duplicates. I'll pull these out again and do some comparison, but these are Activision color labels versus the kind of black or less colored labels. I guess and again I'll do a side-by-side comparison, and then the later sort of blue labels at the end of the 80s when they're trying to save money. I've also got some international games too, so international version of the Activision, but they are NTSC, so I think probably mainly sold in Canada, maybe a few other places. These are my US game collection games, and again there's some duplicates And again, I'll pull these out, but things like Go Further, they had 2 different cartridge types, and I'll show you the difference between those 2. Down here, these are CBS games, Tiger Vision. Silver ones are the Data Age. These are the Apollo games, and again, some of these games are released in just the blue labels versus some of these other color labels. Got a bunch of Panda games, Froggo, so these are kind of unlicensed knockoffs of other games. I think for the most part are low quality, but a lot of them out there. These guys are the Spectre Video game set here. A few of these other random ones like Harbor Escape, Boeing, I think, First Star. I'm not sure how many other games were released by First Star for the Atari 2600. There are actually a lot of vendors out there who only released a game or 2 that most people probably aren't too familiar with unless you're an actual collector. Parker Brothers, kind of these guys here. Coleco, everyone's probably familiar with Donkey Kong and a few of these others, but they actually did release several games for the Atari. 20th Century Fox has all of these games that are, I think, mainly based off of movies. And then the these guys, again, the Telesys games. You'll see I have 2 coconuts, and again, these are the same game. It's just a different cartridge case. So I do have a bunch of those different variants. These are all 20th Century Fox, though maybe I should move those over. I'm not sure why I did that. And then a few others. These are the Absolute Entertainment games, and these ones are Zellers, which was a Canadian, I'm not sure what exactly they were, Canadian department store or something that released these knockoff games under their own label. But they do have these cool colorful labels. So pinball is the same as video pinball, but you know, it's got a, I guess, upside down little guy on a pinball machine. So these games all have, you know, these cool labels, but otherwise it's the same games as some of the other Atari games. Here we've got a bunch of the different Sega games that were released from Atari. And again, different cartridges. Spy Hunter, for example, and Tapper. I've got the sort of Fat Boy case with the little handle edges versus you know, kind of the regular case. Here, a few other one-offs. Tax Avoiders, I think, is the only one released by you know who did this one? American Video Game. BMX Airmaster, I think, was the only TNT. Is that the only TNT? Anyway, down here, these are all the iMagic games. And again, I've got a bunch of different label variants I'll get into in a moment. These guys are all Mizonox XONOX. I don't know how to pronounce it. Double-enders, but these games are kind of cool because double-ended. Then my Mattel games, so they use the same mold, I guess, as in television for the top part, and just made this flare-out end so it could fit into Atari 2600 base. But initially they released, I think these were under the Mattel label, and then it got sold and they re-released or resold everything with the white labels. These are the Avalon Hill games. Like this is another fairly rare one I've got. Condor Attack Ultravision with this funky T-handle case. And then a few of these Comavid games. These are the bigger, actually longer than a standard case. And my Konami games. Down here, this whole section, these are actually newer homebrew games I got off of Atari Age, so they're still kind of bagged up, but they're with here. I've got Zigmag, and then a couple naughty adult games here, like Custer's Revenge and Bachelorette Party. And then I've got Zonox single cartridges, so most of those games here. And then I do have a handful of games that are still boxed, just because I haven't been able to get my hands on loose carts. So these are actually some more of those naughty adult games. Play Around and Mystique, I think. I forget which one came first. I could do a thing on those in a bit. And then I think Moto Rodeo here is actually the one vintage game I only have boxed. But if I ever get a loose one, for a decent price, I'll probably just sell this and have the loose one out. And then these are kind of more recent releases from Atari that I just haven't opened or anything yet. And then, as I mentioned down here, these are all PAL games, and I'll pull out a bunch of these. And then this is actually Starpath. So this company, Arcadia, or Starpath, made these cassette-based games for the Atari 2600, and you can actually load these games up into the RAM of that Starpath chip if it's plugged in, and play them on your old console. And then also these Smurfs Save the Day that actually go with the Smurfs cartridge. So they're these, and I actually have the video cassette, the cassette player that goes with this. I think I'm only missing number 2. I forget which Smurf is number 2. I got Harmony and Greedy 1 and 3. But that's the Smurf Save the Day, are also the cartridge-based component of that game. Accidentally clicked the button there. Anyway, that's the collection at a high level, and I realize I've been rambling actually for over 12 minutes, so I'll do a follow-up video actually on some of the more nuanced differences of these games, and I'll pull out a bunch of examples so you can see sort of the difference of labels and how they changed across the years and cartridge types and whatnot. But again, thanks everyone for looking and listening.